Hi, good evening, everyone. You know, some people become associated with companies. You know, those faces are associated with those companies, okay? But there aren't many faces which are associated with a particular medium. And I think, I was just thinking about this earlier on. And Nisha, you're that one person, you know. I mean, when you think of radio, the first person you would think of is Nisha, okay? So it's a pleasure to interview you. And yeah, so the thing is that she's a very emphatic advocate for radio. And as I discovered even while speaking with her outside. So I think we'll have a very interesting session. So I'm going to get down to it very quickly. So the subject today is the changing form of radio. And let me just turn this around a bit. Yeah. So just to get a sense of it, because some people here are from radio, but many others, while they may be from media, may not be from radio, or probably not. So could you give a sense of how radio has changed? All media have changed in some way because of COVID. They were impacted in some way. And they have come back stronger, less strong, looking different. What has happened with radio?
So thank you for a very flattering introduction, and I think a less noise from the Red FM team would be highly appreciated. But okay, just to answer the question, to begin with, Shrikant, I'm saying radio completes almost 100 years in the country now. How has it impacted during the COVID? There have been multiple changes. During COVID, one of the biggest impact has been the increase in listenership. So there has been a huge listenership increase that has happened over the last 2-3 years, particularly during COVID times. And these are internal researches that has been done. And that increase in listenership has been mostly in towns outside the metros. So tier 2 and tier 3 towns has really, really grown high on listenership. That being said, there have been particularly some new experiences that has come in during the COVID. One is the whole audio experience. So indeed, it's not about radio anymore, it's about audio. And the whole audio experience has changed in the last 2-3 years, and particularly during COVID, which includes the whole emergence of Twitter spaces, chat rooms, audio experiences, mini pods, podcasts, etc. So that's been a huge...
And that was because of a surfeit of TV time, of screen time, and therefore in a reaction to that?
Possibly. But then we did see a huge consumption. I mean, I remember, I think 2 years back, probably the podcast listenership went up to 67% in 1 year, which was a huge jump. And the consumption of podcast has really gone up higher. The way we have produced audio programming has also changed. So now there's so much more focus on soundscaping, the audio experience, storytelling. All of that has come into the whole podcast space. So this is a significant change besides listenership increase. The other change...
Can I interrupt you one more?
Yes, please.
See, the thing is that, so as programmers, as broadcasters, have you brought in change? Because there's the change that you can bring in, and there's the change that people can absorb, right? In technology, there are a lot of things you can do, but people don't change so quickly. Did that happen, that the broadcasters were actually making changes faster than the public could absorb? I mean, all these things, did they go down well?
It did actually. I don't think it was more about what we served as much as I think where we were transforming ourselves with the changing times to be more relevant in the ecosystem. So from an entertainment medium, we not only focused on creativity, but I think over the last few years, the entire radio industry increased its sense of social responsibility and also development programs. So it's a myth that the commercial radio don't really do development programs or do anything towards social responsibility. That being said, another change would be the whole surge of independent music in the country. So COVID acted as a catalyst.
Tell me more about this independent music.
So COVID acted as a catalyst for the whole rise of independent music there. And there was some sort of a lull as far as Bollywood music is concerned. So the independent music...
Because there weren't any new releases.
They weren't getting any theatrical releases.
Correct.
So the independent artists really grew. And when I say independent artists, I'm talking about well-known artists who are creating independent music. I'm also talking about unknown unheard of artist,
right.
struggling artist, but who's creating some incredible music. And radio, being a mass medium, was able to embrace that music and play around. So back about 4 years ago, when we were playing probably 80 to 90% of Bollywood music, today 40 to 45% of our music is independent music.
Continues to be.
Continues to.
That's amazing.
And that music is different because it is fresh, it is experimental, it doesn't have any sort of cookie cutter kind of music programming. So it's not, music is not created for commercial purposes. Independent music, I think, to a large degree is done or created for the love of the music, and that shows in the music that is created. Okay. So these are particularly some of the key changes. And one last point probably is the whole rise of RJs as digital influencers as well. I think that has also happened. I mean, at some point, RJs were RJs, but over the last 3-4 years, the emergence of RJs also as very strong content creators and digital influencers has also taken shape.
That the transition from being RJs to being, being powerful digitally, was that an easy transition either for them or for the radio brands or for the audio brands? Let's say?
So I think what was mandated at a business level was that whatever content is produced on radio, one has to reflect that on social media and take. I mean, that's something that we have to do if we have to be relevant in the ecosystem. Right. It is not something as to whether you can be either only on radio or only on the digital space. It has to coexist, and that's the future of it. I mean, when we're sitting here and talking about the whole digital invasion in our lives, we're not talking about whether it is good or bad. It's about embracing it along with whatever we do. So we're a terrestrial medium. But to be relevant to the youth of the country whom we are catering to, we will have to take our content and reflect that on digital medium. That's a no-brainer.
Tell me, are there moments, you were a radio brand, okay? That's how you started, right? Now, you probably refer to yourself as an audio brand. Now, you did activation and you were on the ground even, I mean, traditionally you were there, but I suspect that has increased dramatically, right? Now you're also online, right? Are there moments in the morning when you get up and say, who am I? I mean, am I this? Am I that? Am I the other?
Not really, because what we stand for is for the brand. And what we created is
what does the brand stand for?
The brand stands for being Bajate Raho. The brand stands for being a provocative entertainer. The brand is a nat local brand. It is national, yet very local in nature. It reflects the local ethos of the country, the local ethos of the city where we're present in. So that's what we are. We're an irreverent brand. Now, we need to take that in different forms through digital, through on-ground, through festivals, through content creation on the digital platform, through radio. So it really doesn't matter because ultimately it's all programming and content. And the brand remains where it is. I'm saying, so the brand has to grow, and I think it's so important to be relevant as a brand more than a platform. Because platforms will come and go, technology will come and go, and there'll always be new technology that will be coming in. But we just need to be far more relevant.
But there is, give me some instances, there must be some conflict, like we're doing this thing on the ground, we're doing this thing online, we're doing this on radio. There must be points where you have to hold it together. There's a need to meld it, because the faces of each of these media may be different. What are the kind of issues that you come up with? Would we do this on the ground? Would we have done this on the air? Would we do this online? Don't those issues come up?
Yes, it does.
And how do you see that it's all consistent?
So one of the ethos for what the brand stands for is inclusion. And as part of inclusion, we do come up with this challenge, Shrikant, that you just mentioned. So for instance, one of our IPs is called the Kavi Collective, where we speak about poetry. It's spoken word. The question is, on Red FM, as a music channel, and as a channel which is reflecting Bajate Raho as a tagline, we may or may not really be able to reflect Kavi Collective there. But do we really do it on ground is the question, and we would. The Yellow Taxi Music Project, which is about folk music and supporting folk music in the country from different parts of the country, may be at Red FM on the airwaves. It's probably not the right content to go out there, to be consistent. But we will still go ahead and do it as an on-ground property, as an on-ground event. So we'll have to, there are certain spaces where we disengage ourselves from being a radio brand and become a 360-degree entertainment company, which is delivering a certain form of content. So yes, this happens most of the time. Also because when you're a 69 station network present across the country, there are different challenges in different markets.
Yeah, exactly.
Perhaps in a metro, it's a lot easier to deliver content and it can be taken on all the platforms. But maybe in some cities, we just recently, a few months ago, launched in Ladakh.
Okay.
Now, we cannot be Bajate Raho all the time there. We have to be a more socially responsible radio station as well. Right? So I'm just saying, so there are certain considerations that will have to be done, and I'm saying it changes sometimes when it comes to geography.
Okay. You have the FM, you intend to keep it?
I think
because one of your rivals has decided to drop it, so...
That's a very unfortunate thing. I hope I'm not being recorded and shown to my competitor. But then it's a very unfortunate thing if a radio station drops the FM in their promise. I think we should be proud of the fact that we are FM, we are a radio channel, and we reach out to the masses. We reach out to 55-odd million listeners across the country, and we're very proud of it. And radio is still as effective. And that is the reason why the likes of Man Ki Baat, and there is a whole celebration of the 100th year of Man Ki Baat, to various other properties and brands who are using radio-first campaigns very, very effectively, because it reaches the last mile. It reaches out to masses and media dark areas where you would actually not reach in right, many instances.
Okay. And just briefly, what is the breakup from a revenue standpoint, if you're comfortable, with the FM part, the online, as well as the activation on the on-ground? On-ground is what, 25-30% now? Is
no,
it that much?
So we call it the FCT and the non-traditional revenue. So the non-traditional revenue is anything other than FCT. So that, at this point of time, constitutes to about 28 to 30% for Red FM.
Okay.
But clearly the vision is to reach a 40 to 45% and balance that out and not really be completely dependent on FCT, because that's the time when we can be less dependent only on FCT, because come recession, come global, you know, any issue, I'm just saying that we are able to grapple with, because we've not put all our eggs in one basket, and the business is still more stronger and steady with that balance.
Radio is new to online, right? But print and video have been there before, longer, right? And everybody is struggling to, you know, be profitable online. I mean, except perhaps for the OTT guys, some of them, only a few of them, they're seeing substantial subscriptions, but they're probably losing money as well. I mean, there must be the odd one who's profitable, but not that I can think of, you know, offhand. How do you see that, you know, dealing with that challenge as far as getting profitable online goes for radio? Or is it just that I don't have to be profitable online? It's a part of just completing a 360-degree impact. Do you look at it like that? Or do you see it as a business with its own P&L which should make money online?
So from a content creation point of view for online, we have great talent, we have regional languages, we understand the ethos, and programming is not the issue.
Okay.
But I think from a business point of view, copyright is a very, very big issue, because of which all radio players, or most of the radio players, are not coming up with online radio stations. So there is a huge entry barrier that is there, and that is the reason.
What's the issue? Sorry, I'm unaware.
So the issue is that the license fee that is paid for the music royalty, is so high.
Oh, if you were to pay for it to play it online
separately,
oh, okay.
and is so high that we will not be able to afford it. So even if we are able to afford it, the business of running the radio station, where the royalty is anyway very high,
correct,
as well as for the audio OTT, we'll not be able to kind of make the ends meet. That being said, the entry barrier is also very high. So that is why I'm not talking only on behalf of Red FM, but none of the other radio players are really online as is. The reason being that there is a huge royalty issue or a copyright issue which comes into play.
Okay, that's okay. So do you see, if you talk about your traditional part of your business, do you see your competition as other brands such as yourself, or do you see the big competitors now are the music apps?
I think for the last decade or so, over a decade, we keep saying this, that our competition has never been another radio station. The fight is never a Red FM versus a Mirchi versus a Fever, etc. The challenge clearly is is against technology. I won't even say the OTT apps.
Okay.
Because the technology is changing so fast that we just have to be keeping ourselves so much more relevant. And therefore, content is king. So while new technology comes in, we often say this, no matter which platform we're putting out there, even the NFTs and the other platforms, etc., we would want to create content that is relevant. So our competition is actually technology and not radio players within ourselves.
So when you say technology, what specifically in terms of technology?
So the way the youth is consuming music, for instance, is changing. I'm saying that so they have OTT platforms, they have their own music where they can consume the music, etc. Or for that matter, today everybody is a digital creator. There's so much of empowerment which is being given to people to create their own content. So what makes them stand apart from, say, an RJ or a digital influencer, etc.? So technology is empowering people in a very beautiful way. So the challenge clearly is that how do you keep yourself relevant, and how would people still listen to the radio and enjoy the music? But having said that, Shrikant, I must also say this, and I say this often, that no matter where technology moves, and especially the music OTT platforms, when it comes to making a song a hit, I can say it very proudly that all radio stations are approached by audio labels to play their songs. Because radio knows how to make a song a hit. And it has nothing to do with the millions of views that may be garnered over an OTT platform or on the digital space. But the question really is about familiarity. So when the artist goes on stage to really sing, the audience out there, can he really recognize the song that the artist is singing, and can they hum along with him is really the question. So that is something what radio can deliver for you. And that stands true even as of now. I'm happy to take up a challenge with any OTT platform.
Okay, right, okay. I think there's also, when it plays on radio, there's also the thing that it's like it creates a water cooler conversation. Means a lot of people are listening to it at the same time. When it goes on the OTT platforms, on the audio OTT, a lot of people listen to it, but at different points in time. So it's not at the same moment in time. That's there.
No, but the only point here is that with radio, there is a surprise element, and the number of times that we play a song is in our hands.
Correct.
So and the whole game is about frequency. So the number of times we play a song or an ad or any messaging, the top of mind recall is going to be huge. Now that does not happen with an audio OTT platform.
That's true. You listen to it once and then you may come back to it, you may not come back to it. Correct.
So if I'm listening to music on an OTT platform, I have the choice of changing the song and listening to it, etc. But when I'm listening to the radio, I don't have a choice of not listening to that song because that song is served to me. So that's the major difference which makes it a hit.
Okay. So we have some 8 minutes. When it comes to listening online, I have a small question. How is it different from listening to traditional radio? I mean, is it different types of people? Is it different times of the day? Is it very similar? I mean, if you have to look at viewership patterns on traditional radio versus radio online, would you see different songs, different times, different people, or would they be pretty similar?
No, I think today by virtue by the need to exist, I'm saying most of the radio stations have a very different imaging as far as their programming is concerned and the music. So somebody may be 100% retro channel or a 100% English channel. We are a CHR station. We play mostly new music and independent music, etc. As compared to that, when you see an online radio station, I'm saying online radio station can be far more fragmented as compared to the current set of FM players. The reason being that, let's say, for example, in a market like Delhi, we're only about 9 radio channels in a city, while on online, you can have at least about 50-odd radio stations, all of them having different kinds of programming. So the fragmentation can be very different. So somebody can be playing retro music, but it's not all eras. It can be only the 70s music. It can only be the 80s music. It can only be a channel which is playing only Kishore Kumar. That in itself can be a great radio channel. So that allows you to probably give in a lot more fragmentation than currently the way FM operates.
So if you look forward, I think one of the challenges to radio would be the fact, I mean, earlier when we bought a mobile phone, you could listen to radio on the mobile phone. But now, even if I want to, I can't do it on my smartphone, right? So I would think that's one big challenge. But what are the other big challenges? And from a regulatory point of view, I mean, you're not allowed to broadcast news, for example. Is anything changing? Will anything ever change?
No, I think it is. I think that we should probably look at it more positively, because just about a month back, TRAI had come up with its recommendations on allowing news and current affairs on radio. And we're all vociferously supporting the cause. The only thing what we're saying is that please allow us to generate our own news and current affairs and not really take it from Prasar Bharati. Because most of the companies of radio stations, the mother companies, all of them have news gathering units. But that being said, allowing news and current affairs is going to be a game changer on radio, also because there will be huge categories and different categories of advertisers also coming onto the radio sector. So that is one part. The other part, again, at a regulatory level, again, that's been challenged and spoken to at various levels, including an open house that happened yesterday at TRAI, was to allow FM on smartphones. It's a matter of switching on a switch on your smartphone.
And who would switch it on?
The manufacturers.
The mobile phone
It's not really, so it needs to be told to them to kind of do it, because there's a strong lobby of manufacturers where they're not allowing FM to be played. It's a very simple job of switching on a switch, but they're not allowing FM to be played on the radio for various other commercial reasons and business reasons. But I think that's not a fair thing for a country like India, because consumption of FM on radio is really high when it used to be on the radio. When it used to be on the handsets. And if you really need to reach 90% of the population of this country, that should be allowed. So currently the proposition is also to allow not just on handsets, but also on Bluetooth speakers and speakers and gadgets. Because today if you go to a store to buy a radio set, it's not available. I'm going to be as candid as that. But it's a fact. It's not available. So where do you really consume radio? So the best way to do it is to really have it on mobile phones.
I mean, obviously one answer would be in the car, but then it reaches a upmarket limited crowd, you know, Yeah,
so if you really want to reach everywhere, and I'm saying all tiers of towns, then it has to be beyond cars as well. And it should be on mobile phones.
But it was on, if I remember, many years back, it used to be on mobile phones, right? Then when did it stop? I mean, because one day I suddenly realized you couldn't do it. It happened a long time back? Or
no, I think it happened with the whole upswing of audio OTT platforms. I think that's probably when FM radio was weaned out from the handsets. That's probably the time when this transition happened. But we do hope, and we want to be staying positive on this, that FM will be allowed on radio, on handsets as well, where we have to work very closely with the telephone operators and handset manufacturers.
So apart from the regulatory issue, what are the other big challenges from a business standpoint, or even from a brand standpoint, that you see?
From a business standpoint, huge license fee. I'm saying we all pay huge license fees. So we give the example of something like a Bombay frequency that we have, Magic FM, where we paid 133 odd crores for a 15-year license.
That's a lot.
And this is year 5 or year 6 now, and there's no conceivable way that we're going to make profits at this point of time. And it's not just for us, it's for my counterparts who's got second frequencies and who's paid huge amount of license fee. And I'm saying, so this ease of business has to be given, and the policy needs to be a lot more enabling to allow more and more players to come and own and run radio stations. Currently it's concentrated, it's a little monopolistic in nature. It's concentrated to a few media houses, but if we have relaxations on the license fee and the auctioning process, and ease of regulation in terms of news and current affairs, or FM being available on handsets, etc., I think there'll be more players coming in. More regional players will come into the business as well. There are many regional players who own newspapers or cable TV, etc., today who don't own radio channels. They may be inclined to come on and also be, so at a state level, at an MP level, Gujarat level, Kerala, they may be inclined to come in and start their own FM channels if these things are taken into ease and more players can come into the fray.
You know, the activation business for radio companies, how has that, I mean, after post-COVID, how is it different if you were to compare it pre-COVID and post-COVID, forget the COVID part, has it changed in terms of bulk? Like the business is much bigger, or has the nature of it changed? Are advertisers expecting, I mean, are the expectations different? Has it changed in any way?
My activation head is sitting somewhere in the crowd, but I'm just saying that we've really grown as far as activation is concerned. And it's multiplied, and the advantage that we have is that whenever we're doing activation or anything on ground, we have the medium,
correct,
like radio, to also promote it, and which is our own medium. So I'm saying we're able to amplify it a lot more. So perhaps that is one consideration, but also there's been a huge upsurge of activations in smaller towns as well. So tier 2 and tier 3 towns, we've been seeing huge, and rural activation has also picked up right now. So but that's a trend that we've seen internally.
But Anna, how is it, the activation in, say, tier 3 towns different from compared to the metros?
Scale. I think largely the issue is about scale.
But the type of activation is similar.
Music concerts, something on social responsibility, educating the audience on certain brands, etc. So they're similar, but I'm saying scale is what differs. So probably in a smaller town, we can probably do 10 touch points. We can do something like a bandstand or some music event where we're having 10 different touch points, smaller event. Maybe in something like a Delhi or a Bombay, we may have a bigger event with a crowd of 10,000. So I'm saying that's largely a scale issue, but otherwise it's more or less similar.
Okay. I think we are, actually, time's just up, just 5 seconds ago, so you've done very well. Is there anything else you'd like to add, something that I've missed?
No, I think you've covered everything pretty much, Srikanth. I'm saying kudos to you.
I think we've really packed up. Actually, I've learned so much about radio in the last 25 minutes. I hope that applied to you as well. Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Thank you. It's a pleasure.